Well, hi and welcome to another Guns Contractors video. I wanted to run through, I guess a few of you know I've sold my 3CX, and I wanted to run through my thinking behind that and also what I'm considering as my options for the kind of next move. A lot of you know I have my 3CX, I think for about 3 years, and absolutely loved it. It's great experience, great machine, and last year was actually the machine that did the most sort of days for me, so it was getting used, and even at the beginning of this year it was doing quite a bit of work, which was great. But I just thought, while I'm grading out an artificial cricket wicket at the moment, and I thought, well, while I'm doing this, I could probably talk through my thinking really of why I sold it and what I'm considering sort of doing next, you know, for my business. So yeah, just weighing up really, I guess, the options, because there's a few different directions that I could go with this. So yeah, I sold the backhoe back in early May, actually, is when it went, and there was a few reasons for that. One of which was it was starting to become a little bit unreliable, and I think at one point earlier this year I could barely do a day's work without a breakdown of some sort, and that was mostly all hydraulic hoses, just an absolute spate of poor hose, just hoses bursting really, and it hadn't done a lot of hours, done just over 2,500 hours. It was just age related. It's like the hoses, for whatever reason, were just getting to an age and just deciding all within the same, within an 8-hour period, you'd burst one and then you'd fix that, and then a couple of hours later another one would go. And I spent quite a bit of money trying to put new hoses on it to sort of get ahead of it, and then another thing would burst that you just think, like, what is going on with this? It was really frustrating and a bit of a shame, to be honest, because it was taking the edge off of what otherwise would have been quite a nice job. But I've done videos on what we were up to at that point, and yeah, you can go back and watch them. But that was certainly one of the things. I was thinking, is this, is it just reached that age where it's just going to become a problem? And the other reason really was I got a very good offer to buy it, and I thought, well, I haven't got a huge amount of work coming up for it. I knew what work I had, including the work that I'm doing here. The summer was booked up, and I thought, well, maybe now's the time to kind of pass it on. Didn't have a lot going on, and otherwise you're paying money in insurance and storage and all of these things for a machine that wouldn't have turned a wheel for 4 or 5 months really. So that was a couple of things that I thought, and I thought, you got to take the offer while it's there. So anyway, I thought, well, let's move it on and maybe think about what else I could do. So I guess of those options, I've been thinking about it quite a lot recently, and I've got a few options. One is that I could replace it with another backhoe, which I could do, and backhoes have come on quite a long way in the last couple of years. There's a lot to like about the new JCB machines. The features they've got, dual drive, and latching auxiliaries, and the new EH servos and things. You give some great possibilities with what can be potentially achieved. I could go up in size, maybe to sort of a 4CX size, and get a bigger front bucket, more weight. It should be better free on wheels, that kind of thing. And that's tempting, because there was a lot of things I really liked about that 3CX. I initially bought it to do a lot of work at schools. I work on quite a large school campus, was doing quite a lot of work there at the time, and what I actually needed was a forklift, and I've kind of I needed a forklift and I needed an 8-ton digger, and the backhoe did kind of both of those jobs, you know, in one machine, which was great. But I had to think to myself, you know, is that work kind of gone a bit quiet recently because of the VAT on school fees and things? There has not been so much work at schools as there was a couple of years ago, and maybe the market's changed, you know, and that does happen. So that was another consideration of mine. I thought, well, you know, maybe that's just how it is. I know I'm working at a school here, funnily enough, but not really a job that maybe the backhoe would have been ideal for. It's not over the same sort of scale. We're literally just on the playing fields rather than being on the estate as a whole. But yeah, the schoolwork's getting quieter. Do I think about, you know, what's the next machine for me? You know, what now suits my business? Business changes all the time, and you've got to stay adaptive. And whilst I love the backhoe and really enjoy driving it, you got to ultimately, I run a business, and that business is to try and make money and serve my customers the best it can. So if the backhoe didn't suit that model anymore, then sadly, you know, maybe it was time to move on. So that was kind of one thing. The other thing I really liked about the backhoe was the ability to transport it. It was a fantastic, easy thing to move about between jobs, and actually I ended up using it kind of more than I thought I would, because you could bring it in on a job just for a day to kind of be the powerhouse, and it would do a rake of work, and you know, then you could kind of drive it home and then maybe trim up with the little 3-tonner like I am now, kind of thing. And that was a real advantage that I had with that. You know, you could bring it in. You could bring it in and do a bit of crushing. You could bring it in and do a bit of soil screening with it, or breaking out. You know, I used the breaker quite a bit. You come in and you smash a load of work out that, you know, maybe wouldn't have been viable to have brought an 8-tonner in or a bigger machine for the day, just to do that work. You no doubt would have pushed on with this machine and its breaker, and it would do everything. You know, this would still do all of that work. Remember, I spent the first 7 years of business pretty much with just this machine, so it's no stranger to being used as a 5-tonner. But there was a huge productivity advantage in using a bigger machine where you need a bigger machine, and you can get work done far quicker. Why can it now not find the laser? So every so often, when you've got your laser, by the way, so I'm grading here to a full, a grade. This is a 0.22 slope in this direction. The whole field falls more than that, but we're trying to build up this ground to build up this cricket wicket. So overall, we're doing it to a 0.22 grade, which is what we've agreed is the best way to do it for the materials and everything we've got. And my Leica rugby laser, when it's in a slope setting, will every so often periodically stop just to check that it's at the right grade, which is what it was doing there, which is why I couldn't then link iDig to it, because it stopped spinning essentially. It happens sometimes, and often you don't, you know, it does it while I'm busy doing something else, but in that instance it did it right then. Anyway, that was what's going on. So yeah, you know, this machine has done a lot of work, and I could just go back, you know, to running this digger, because it continues to be a great asset. People like the format of the 3-tonner and the tiltrotator. It's just about towable, so transport isn't a problem. It's pretty cheap to run. There's a lot to like about a mini digger, I have to say, especially having run some bigger kit now. They are expensive things to operate, expensive things to bloody buy. So yeah, these are my sort of options really. Of course, the other thing I could do, much as I love the backhoe, I could actually go down the backhoe's enemy and go down the 6-ton 360 and get a bigger midi machine, which you know what, would probably work for a lot of my work. If I look at the work that I've done here, that would probably work for that. I could have bought that here. It would have been a bit quicker on all the soil moving we've done. And yeah, I could see myself working with a 6-ton 360 I think it's a perfect size. You know, 8 tons are great, but they're just that bit bigger, and I think you can get into places that you sort of maybe would have used the 3-tonner in with a 6. The tilt rotator options on them are brilliant because you're at the upper weight class of the 206 or the Rototilt R2 and those sort of units. So there's a lot of advantages really. You can run 8-ton buckets with one for productivity. Yeah, they're a very, very versatile machine. And in fact, I've got a friend who has recently bought a Takeuchi TB260, which is a really nice looking machine, and he's fitted an Encon to it. And in fact, after seeing mine and what I can do with this, he's fitted an Encon to that, and yeah, reckons it's been an absolute game changer. The problem I find with that, and I will love to try that machine one day and maybe review it on this channel. The problem I have with all of that is transport, because I think whilst it would suit a lot of my work, it's familiar to my customers, it'd be an easy sell, it's just bigger than the machine I've got now. It would suit a lot of the work, you wouldn't have the issues with wet ground, soft ground, making a mess. There's a lot of advantages to going down the 6-ton route, and I know a lot of people do. A lot of you guys who watch me run, you know, tracked machines of various sizes, and it's you know, let's face it, it's the way the industry has gone, really, isn't it? It's a possibility, and I think it would work really well for me. But transport is a problem, and I've had issues before when I've used transport to move things around, where you're waiting for lorries to turn up to either collect your machine, or you're waiting for them to deliver, which in a way is actually worse. Okay, how often do I move? Well, I don't move every day. I move sometimes, you know, a couple of months before I move, and other times it's a couple of weeks. You know, sometimes it can be less than that, but not normally with a bigger machine. So, you know, maybe I'm looking at moving, I don't know, a handful of times a year. Let's say if I moved once a month on average, 12 times a year. I doubt I even do that, but let's say 12 times a year. It does add up. Yes, you can charge the customer for that, and they generally pay because they appreciate that, you know, it costs money to move these machines. But I still it's the time lost that I worry about, and that time waiting for that machine to be there. You know, I've got to a job, I want to start working, and suddenly, you know, you're waiting for your machine, and it's just not really how I want to be operating. As nice as it would be to run a full spec Encon, I could link it into iDig because it would have the rotation sensors in it. You could run a gripper, you could run loads of attachments on S45 and stuff. It'd be a fantastically productive machine, no doubt. Transport is my biggest worry with that, and maybe it's a fear that I'm putting too much weight on. You know, the guy who runs the Takeuchi I mentioned, he has his own lorry, he's got his own hook loader, and he moves it around, obviously on his own work. And he said, oh yeah, well, you can get your own muck and do your own muck away. And you turn up with a digger in the sort of back of the muck bin and drop the digger off, and then load the lorry up, and then you can go and tip that. And I'm thinking, well, this is great, but then my money is made driving machines, really. You know, people want me doing this. They don't want me leaving the machines, no work's happening, and I'm off doing muck away. It's just not valuable enough. It does save you a little bit of money, but to me it's not valuable enough to warrant the time that you're spent in that lorry suddenly. You're not in your digger. Plus you've got in the UK, you know, we can't tow that size machine. Some of my American friends can, but in the UK we can't do that. So you've got to run a lorry. You've got to pay to have that lorry on the road. You need an operator's license. You need somewhere to run out of that you could get a license at. You've got to have the thing checked. It's every 6 weeks. It's not even just buying a lorry. You know, there's quite a lot of work to getting yourself into lorries. And then if you're only moving 12 times a year, I just don't see that that's enough. It's just not enough, is it? It's not enough movement to warrant the cost. of running it and owning it and insuring it, and tyres and the money you got to have in the bank for maintenance, and every 6 weeks I got to drive somewhere and take time out of my day to maintain it. I just can't get myself there. I mean, tell me please in the comments if I'm missing something and it's a lot easier than maybe I'm imagining it and making it out to be. But I've got friends who run lorries and it works for them, but they've got to keep running the lorry, and they've got to keep using the wagon for what they're doing. I just need to align iDig, because every 20 minutes it wants you to just recheck what axis the slope is in. So because it uses a gyroscope to know which way, it doesn't have a sensor on the slew, it just uses gyroscopes essentially in a sensor to tell you which way you're facing. So otherwise your slope can end up sort of creeping round a bit. So you just have to redo that every so often. So anyway, that's what I'm doing there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm making it out to be a big thing. No doubt the 6-ton digger is a great way to go. It'd be a very, very, very productive machine, and I could run it nicely. It's very familiar with the way that I work. It would probably be the ultimate machine for me, really. It's just let down by that. To me, the transport is the thing there. And the other thing, of course, I wouldn't have with the 6-ton digger, which I do use, especially when I'm on these larger sites, like the school that I work at, is the ability to transport things around, a road network, using forks, or whether that be materials or whatever it might be, even aggregates. Sometimes I have to tip miles away from where I'm working and then bring materials to the work area, and the backhoe was working really well for that. You can go and get yourself a pile of something, grab a pile, bring a bucket full of it. If you don't need the whole bucket, you can go back, tip the rest out, go and get another material, bring some curbs in, some stuff on pallets, whatever it might be. It was working really, really well for that kind of work, which of course the 6-tonner wouldn't do. Be a fantastic digger, but it's not going to be that material handler in a way that some of the work I was doing, I did need that kind of aspect to the backhoe. So there's horses for courses again, isn't it? Of course, the other thing I could do really is the hybrid solution to all of this, which is to go rubber duck. Now, I think costs. Let's talk costs quickly. If I went down the 6-tonner route, I think they're about 50 grand. I think you'd allow around about that sort of number, depending on spec. Then you've got a tilt rotator, which you might allow another 20-ish thousand, plus some attachments. I'd need new buckets, because of course S30 isn't going to cut it on that size machine. So, we'd need buckets. Where's my laser? It's down here somewhere. Come on. Why can't you find it? Oh, it's probably doing its recalibration again. That's twice. Do you know what? All week I've been using it and I've not managed to find that point once. And then twice since I'm recording here, it's unluckily hit that time. So yeah, I'd have to buy new buckets for mid tilt rotator and attachments and things to make it the machine that I'd really want it to be. I'd want a gripper. You could well be looking at probably nearly £30,000 by the time you've equipped it with a load of buckets, the full control system that I'd want, the gripper, the top pitch, we wouldn't be messing about. You need the sensors for the iDig system, which Encon do, and then iDig can plug into that. All of that adds money, and it would be the same a very similar number if I went down a road tilt or steel wrist thing. By the way, I say Encon because I'm familiar with how much they cost, because I've had a price on them. So it's a cost though, isn't it? In whichever way I would go, it would be a cost to do it. But then nothing good in life is free, is it? So we're looking at about 50 grand for the machine, another 30. So for 80-ish thousand, you're in for a very well set up 6-tonner, aren't you? forget the transport. Just say you'll pay for transport. Find somebody who's reliable and helpful and whatever, and go down that route. It's probably the best way for me, really, at this stage anyway. So 80 grand, you've got a very nicely tricked out digger. Continue iDig, can go on it as it stands now. I can get iDig set up on that for probably 1,200 quid, including fitting and the new sensor brackets and everything. So that would be relatively cheap. And off we go. Really, it'd be good to go and a great machine. It may even outdo a lot of the work that I would probably have previously taken my 3-tonner on. Like here, I probably would have bought a 6-tonner because there's no space restrictions and it's going to get the work done quicker, isn't it? Because it's got every advantage that the 3-tonner has, plus the ability to move muck quicker. So, I could see it working well. Anyway, the backhoe as a cost. Well, if I just went for a backhoe, went maybe 4CX or even 3CX, 3CX would probably cost me nearly 90,000 for a pro model with the spec that I want, a lot of the spec. If I'm going to buy a machine, I want all the features, and it would cost me that kind of number. Now I've already got some attachments, of course, for that, so that would help negate some of that cost. But you're already over the 6-tonner price, even just as a bare machine. The tiltrotator, if I was to go tiltrotator on a backhoe, and I've got my reservations about that, would cost the same amount of money as it would on a 6, if not a little bit more, because they maybe want you to run the size up, the 209 size, which in my opinion is too big, and that's partly my reason why I've got reservations with the tiltrotator. So it's not quite as simple. I gain the ability of transport in terms of being able to move it around myself, drive it about. I lose the flexibility of maybe running the tiltrotator. I could probably work an iDig system onto it. I've got some ideas, and I've spoken to the guys at iDig about making iDig work on the backhoe. The key, of course, is the slew, because it doesn't slew like the digger does, left to right like this. It slews on the arm in front of you, so you need to fit the in-cab sensor on the actual arm, not in the cab. And that's all possible. We've got ideas for how to do that and make that work. And you've got the extending hoe as well, which isn't that easy to measure. So you might have to have an option of just having it stick in or with the stick out for deep holes, as different settings on the iDig. Anyway, I go into these details. I've looked into it, and but it's possible. I could have iDig on it, relatively low cost. Again, probably 1,500 quid of installation, essentially, with the extra brackets and a little bit of self-made brackets we'd have to do to get it to fit the rear arm. But it's all doable. But we're in for 90 grand on a 3CX. I think a 4 would be another 10 grand more than that. You're in for 100 grand. And that's a lot of money, isn't it? And ultimately, what money can we charge for that machine? I just don't think it's enough. I don't know where we go with that. But these are the conundrums. Of course, the third option, and there is a third option here. The third option is to go down a hybrid route and get a rubber duck. Now, at Bauma, Kubota and Liebherr have released their new 9-ton rubber duck, and then they've released an 11-ton rubber duck. Well, the 9 is the 11's a lovely looking machine, but we're probably in more of a 9-ton mark. That is a very nice looking machine, and Liebherr have made some fantastic machines before. A tie-up with Kubota for Kubota's engines is no bad thing. I think the two manufacturers got a lot sort of tie up and have in common. There's a lot to like there, isn't there? There's an awful lot to like. So it's a major option for me. Is to potentially look at the rubber duck. There's also the JCB Hydra Dig. There'd be the Takeuchi TB. What are they now? 370Ws, I think they do. With tab boom, well-regarded machine. There's also the Wakanussens. They do a duck, don't they? They do 100 EW 100, I think. That's quite a tasty looking duck. I know somebody who runs one of them, really rates it. Again, would work well with a tiltrotator. I don't know. I can see a lot of advantages there, but they are a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money. They are the most expensive of all the options. I'd really want to run one like we were in Europe. I'd want to run a trailer. I'd want to run tilt rotators. It would sort out my transport problems. It would probably cover most of the work that I do, because it's a lot of it is on hard ground or I'm off-road. But I mean, look, I'm not really off-road here, am I? I'm rarely in the deep mud. I have been traditionally rarely in the deep mud. And sometimes you just got to go, well, this isn't the machine for that, and you'd have to hire just a standard track machine. But I think it would go off-road enough for me, one of those ducks, and certainly the Europeans are a lot braver than we are in terms of where they take them. So these are all options that I've been weighing up. They're just incredibly expensive. You've still got 30 grand a tilt rotator, give or take, depending on spec, with attachments. You've still got the cost of the machine is even more expensive. I mean like 50% more than even the backhoe by the time you've spec'd them up. Then you've got trailers, which to add to that as well. Then there's the legality of, can you tow the trailer, which you can't really in the UK. It's just, you can see my dilemma here. And I just don't really, I've got an idea of what I should do. But again, am I going to get I don't drive these machines all the time. You can see I've got multiple machines here alone, and there's just me. I drive multiple machines. I don't always drive one every day. It doesn't go out every day on hire. That's not how it works for me. I have machinery to be able to do a job, and that machinery helps me get a job done. It doesn't have to go out and do 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours of work every day to earn its money. It can do 10 minutes work and earn its money for the day, if you see what I mean. If it gets you closer to the overall job, which is getting the thing done, and that's how you earn money. So it's just a lot of money, though, a lot of money to spend, and you've got to think, where's my return on investment? What's it going to be worth in 5 years, 10 years when I come to sell it? What's the reliability like? What's the backup like? It's a real minefield. But these are all the things that we're considering. And also, on top of all of that, you've got to consider, what's the work like? Where is it going? I don't think we're in a great state as an economy. I could see our economy going into recession very easily. I think that's a very high possibility. As much as it is of it, not being in recession, but I certainly don't, and I don't think anyone does, predict some sort of boom time. This, big housing push doesn't seem to be gaining any traction, doesn't seem to really be happening. The infrastructure projects they were talking about doesn't really seem to be happening. And anyway, I'm little old guns contractors. I'm not about to go out there and build a new motorway or nuclear power station or something, am I? It's not what I do. But as always, there's a hierarchy of contractors, and I'm down there at the bottom somewhere, feeding on the small contracts that no one else wants to do. But I don't know. What do you think? They're the options as I see it. 3 options: 6-tonner tilt rotator, full spec backhoe. Well, everything would be full spec, but replace the backhoe with a 3 or a 4CX, or go down the rubber duck route, which is not something I've got a ticket for. It's not something I've driven before. It can't be that hard. It's always my favourite saying with life, but it's not something I've done. So I don't know. They're my options at the moment that I'm weighing up. So yeah, I've done some research. I've got some prices, and I'm just considering where I think it's going to go, because ultimately, whatever machine I do decide to go with, it's going to be a lead time. It's going to take time to get here. It's going to take time for me to modify it to the standard that I want it, with the little extras that I've got in mind for all of them. So yeah, these things are going to take a bit of time, aren't they? It's not like you can just order something off the shelf and get it tomorrow. So I need to kind of think, what's next year going to look like? Because I know what this year is going to look like. Works okay. It's good. I'm busy, but the job quality hasn't been as good as it has been in the past. But you know, what's next year? Is next year going to be that time that the big job comes in, or is it actually going to be a batten down the hatches and you know, hope that you can survive kind of thing? We never know in business. We have to sometimes take a gamble, which I'm prepared to do, an educated gamble. But yeah, it's a bit of a. I think I could see myself going down all three of those routes and having equally successful times, to be honest, just in slightly different areas. So it's just working out what's best for me, I guess. Anyway, I've rambled on for long enough, and I've now got to start running my own dumper, which is incredibly boring to be jumping in and out of the cab and trying to do a YouTube video. So gonna get this loam spread, got this wicket built up the last couple of days with some Site 1 material, and it's all tracked in and hard. So now is the time to start getting the loam over it, start spooning this about. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I welcome interaction in the comments. Always feel free to tell me what your experiences with those machines are, or of course if you've bought them or if you've run them in the past, or I don't know, just thought I'd do a video on what I'm thinking and what I well, it's not what I planned, because I've really got an overall plan. I'm leaning towards one of those three options, but yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to put it out there to my viewers. Anyway, hopefully be some more videos soon, and I'll catch you again soon. Thank you very much.